Los Angeles, California. Jim on our line for independence. You're on the Washington Journal.
Thank you for taking my call. It's nice to be on there with Mike Scheuer. I'd like to address the main motivation for 9/11. If you look at page 147 of the 9/11 Commission Report and go to tinyurl.com/9/11 motivation, and that's U.S. support for Israel. Michael Scheuer had addressed that in his Imperial Hubris book. We don't see that addressed anywhere in the U.S. media when it comes to talking about motivation for 9/11 and the earlier attack on the World Trade Center in 1993. You can look up Israel as a terrorist motivation in the index of James Bamford's A Pretext for War book.
Jim, we'll leave it there. Michael Scheuer, your response, sir.
Yes, you know, this cuts to the heart of, I think, an issue that Americans really need to consider if they don't want to fight this war forever. American lifestyle, democracy, women in the workplace, elections, liberty, all of those things the Islamists, Al-Qaeda, its allies, would never have in a country that they governed. That's very clear. But the idea that has been pushed by President Clinton and President Bush and Mr. Cheney and Barack Obama and Senator McCain, that America is being attacked because of those things, is a disservice to the population of the United States. This war is not against Americans because we're Americans. It's motivated by the activities of our government and its allies in the Muslim world. Certainly, Israel is an enormous problem for the United States and an enormous motivator for the Islamists who are active around the world, including in America and Canada and Britain. But it's not only that. It's our support for the Saudi police state. It's our presence on the Arabian Peninsula and our military activities in Iraq and Afghanistan and Yemen and Somalia and other places. And none of that is to say that those policies or actions are wrong. I would vote to change several of them very drastically, but that's not the point. The point is, unless you understand the motivation of your enemy, you are never going to be able to understand his durability, his intentions, or his ability to recruit in the coming generations. And that's where we are at the moment. And certainly, you can argue about whether you should support the Israelis or not support the Israelis. That's a perfectly legitimate debate. But when you say that Israel is an enormous burden on U.S. interests and our relationship with the Israelis is getting American soldiers killed overseas and threatening us at home, that's just a fact. You can't get away from that fact. And that's the fact that should form the basis of the conversation about whether we continue or not continue support for Israel.
If liberty and freedom mean anything, it means that we have the right to decide for ourselves if we want to put our lives at risk for certain policies. Just think for a moment how ugly these policies must be, that politicians feel it necessary to lie to us about them and try to convince us that the policies have nothing to do with why we were attacked. So much death and suffering because our politicians are dirty. James is right about how the media has behaved, and I'll give you an example. This was on the Newswire on the morning of 9/11. Now look what Dan Rather did.
A London-based Arab newspaperman said that followers of bin Laden warned 3 weeks ago that they would carry out what he called, and I quote him, a huge and unprecedented attack on U.S. interests. For whatever that may or may not be worth.
Outrageous. We don't deserve to be treated like this. I continue to expose the agenda of suppressing why we've been continually targeted in these two videos.